The snow never stopped falling. Thick white flakes dropped from the gray sky like ash, covering everything in silence. The village was quiet, too quiet. Empty homes, broken tools, and icy paths showed what once was life. Now, only cold and loss remained. She stood alone on a small hill, her knees buried in the snow. Her head was bowed, arms wrapped around herself as if trying to protect the last warmth she still had. In front of her was a tiny grave covered in soft snow, marked by a simple charm made of string and beads. The alien woman didn't move. Her skin was pale blue, and her long silver hair blew gently in the wind. Her clothes were thin, not enough for this storm, but she didn't care. Her heart was colder than the wind, heavier than the snow around her. She whispered softly, "I'm sorry, little one. I should have saved you." She had tried everything. When the winter sickness came, she had carried her daughter to the healers. But the medicine didn't work. The fever burned too strong, and one night, the child's breathing stopped. Now, this was all that remained, a grave and memories. Far above the sky, high in orbit, a human starship floated silently. It was not a warship, but a rescue vessel, UNS Frontier Aid, sent to explore remote colonies after strange silence was detected. Weeks ago, this planet stopped sending signals. The crew feared the worst. Aboard the ship, a human soldier named Ryan checked his console. He was trained for harsh environments, used to landing on unknown worlds to search for survivors. "Life sign detected," said the system. Ryan frowned. "One? Just one?" He zoomed in. The signal was weak, possibly fading. "I'll go check," he said to the bridge officer. "Prep my drop pod." Within minutes, the small pod launched, cutting through the clouds like a comet. It shook as it entered the storm, but Ryan was calm. He had done this before. Cold worlds didn't scare him. Losing people did. The pod landed far from the village. Ryan stepped out wearing full winter gear, helmet on, heat sensors active. Snow hit his visor, but his scanner kept beeping. There was someone nearby. He moved fast, climbing the snowy hill, following the signal. That's when he saw her, a pale figure, kneeling in front of a small grave. She didn't react to his presence. She didn't even move. "Hello?" Ryan called. No answer. He stepped closer. The wind howled around them. The woman looked frozen in place. Her shoulders were shaking. Not from the cold, she was crying. Ryan quickly checked her vitals with his wrist scanner. Her body temperature was dropping dangerously. Her pulse was weak. "If I don't move her now, she won't survive," he muttered. Without asking, he gently picked her up. She didn't resist. Her eyes were barely open. She looked at him once, confused, then closed her eyes again. Ryan carried her down the hill, back to the pod. As the hatch closed, heaters turned on. He laid her on the medical bench and wrapped her in warm thermal blankets. The pod lifted off. Back on the ship, medics worked fast. Fluids, heat patches, oxygen, all given in seconds. The alien woman began to breathe normally. She was alive. Barely. Later, she opened her eyes. The light above her was soft, not blinding. She blinked and tried to sit up. "You're safe," a voice said. She turned. It was the human, Ryan. He was without his helmet now. Short brown hair, tired eyes, and a calm voice. "Where am I?" she asked, voice hoarse. "Human ship. Rescue mission. We found you near a grave." The woman looked away, eyes filled, with tears again. "My child." Ryan sat beside her. "I'm sorry. I saw the grave. I didn't touch it." She didn't speak for a while. Then she whispered, "She died from the fever. I buried her myself. She was all I had." Ryan stayed quiet. He knew grief. He had seen it too many times. Then she looked at him, something uncertain in her eyes. "Why did you help me?" He shrugged lightly. Because you were alive. That's enough. Silence filled the room again. The hum of the ship was the only sound. I didn't want to live, she finally said, not after losing her. Ryan didn't judge her. He just nodded. Sometimes we feel like that, but we don't always see what's still possible. The woman closed her eyes again, her hand resting over her heart. Ryan stood. Rest. You're safe now. As he left the room, he checked his mission logs. The scanner had detected something strange near that grave. A faint life sign, barely there. Could it have been a mistake? He looked at the reading again. It was still marked. Unconfirmed life presence, buried source. Ryan stared at the screen. Could the child still be alive? He wasn't sure. But deep down, he knew he had to find out. The medical bay was quiet. The soft hum of machines and the gentle pulse of the ship's systems filled the room like a low heartbeat. The alien woman lay awake, her eyes open but unmoving, staring at the ceiling. Her name was Kelara, though she had not spoken it yet. She hadn't needed to. To her, names didn't matter anymore, not when her daughter was gone, not when everything she had once cared about had been buried beneath the snow. But her body was recovering thanks to the human ship's technology. Her skin, once frozen and pale, had returned to its natural bluish tone. Her breathing was steady, her body was warm again, yet her heart remained cold. The door opened with a soft hiss. Ryan entered holding a small tray with food and a flask of hot liquid. You should eat, he said kindly. Kelara didn't move. He placed the tray on the table beside her. The storm's getting worse on the surface. It's good we found you in time. She finally turned her head. Her eyes were distant but focused on him. You said you saw the grave? Ryan nodded. Yes, it was simple, small. A handmade charm on top. He paused. Was that your child? Kelara gave a single nod. Her lips trembled, but she held back tears. She was just 6, bright eyes, always singing. Ryan lowered his voice. What was her name? Tali. Ryan sat in the chair beside her bed. I didn't mean to disturb it, but while I was scanning the area, something strange came up. She raised an eyebrow slightly, not speaking. There was a signal. A life sign, very faint, almost like it wasn't real. I thought it might be the storm confusing the system. But now, he hesitated. Now I'm not sure. Kelara sat up slightly, her expression changing. What do you mean? I mean... Ryan looked at his wrist scanner and tapped a few buttons. Look at this. When I passed by the grave, this reading appeared. Low-level biosigns. Very weak, but still there. Kelara's breath caught. You're saying, I don't know, he answered carefully. It could be an error, but it could also mean something still alive under that snow. Kelara stared at the scanner, then looked away. No, she whispered. That's not possible. She stopped breathing in my arms. I held her. I buried her. I believe you, Ryan said gently. But what if your people used a survival method? Some kind of stasis? A biological response to extreme cold? Kelara frowned. The idea sounded wild. But her people did have old technologies. Ancient capsules meant to protect life in harsh conditions. Most had been lost, forgotten, or failed. Could one have worked? No, she said again, but her voice was softer. I can't hope. Not again. Ryan stood up. I'm going back. Her eyes widened. To the grave? He nodded. Yes, I want to scan it again. This time with better equipment. If it's nothing, we'll know for sure, but if it's something, I won't leave it behind. I should come with you, she said suddenly. Ryan looked surprised. Are you sure? You're still recovering. I'm sure. Her voice was firm. If there's even a chance, if there's even a small chance, then I must see it myself. He didn't argue. He respected that kind of determination. All right. But we leave in 1 hour. Where the gear I left you? It's built for storms. Kelara, nodded and slowly swung her legs over the edge of the bed. She was weak, but her hands no longer shook. A fire had returned to her eyes, small, but burning. An hour later, the two stood at the hangar bay, fully suited. Ryan wore his snow armor with heating coils and a built-in scanner. Kaylara wore a human thermal coat over her own suit. It fit, awkwardly, but it would keep her warm. The pod launched quietly, diving through the clouds again. This time, Kaylara held onto the rail, her eyes fixed outside the window. She recognized the snowy land below, the sharp mountain ridges, the frozen river, the curved hill. That hill, where she had buried Tali. The pod landed smoothly near the edge of the village ruins. Ryan helped Kaylara step out and guided her through the snow. The wind howled, but they kept moving. Finally, they reached the hill. Kaylara fell to her knees in front of the grave. The charm she had placed was still there, though partly buried in frost. She brushed the snow away with shaking hands. "Tali," she whispered. Ryan stood beside her and activated the new scanner. A soft blue beam swept over the area, then blinked rapidly. "Still there," he muttered. "Same faint signal, but stronger than before." He kneeled and started using a thermal probe. Slowly, the snow and topsoil began to melt and slide away. Kaylara watched with a mix of fear and hope. Her breathing was sharp, uneven. Then, clunk. Ryan's tool hit something solid. He cleared the last of the snow, revealing a smooth metallic surface, old but intact, a capsule. Not large, just big enough for a small body. "It's a preservation pod," Kaylara said in shock. "My people used these generations ago, during the long winters. Could it still work?" "I don't. No, most of them failed. They were unstable." Ryan examined the capsule. Lights blinked faintly on the side. One was red, another was amber. Then, a green light flickered once. "Life support. Active," he said, barely believing it. Kaylara dropped to her knees. Her fingers touched the cold glass panel. Inside, a small figure lay curled up, eyes closed, chest barely rising. "Tali," she whispered, tears falling down her cheeks. The girl was alive. Not completely awake, but alive. Kaylara pressed her hand against the cold capsule. Her palm trembled as she looked through the frosted glass. Inside, her daughter lay completely still, her small hands folded over her chest. Her face was peaceful, like she was sleeping. But her chest, it moved, gently, slowly, a sign of life. "She's alive," Kaylara whispered. Ryan knelt beside her, scanning the capsule again. "She's in deep stasis, barely active but stable." Kaylara felt her breath catch in her throat. She had buried this pod herself. After her daughter's final breath, she had placed her in the old device, one of the few things left behind by her ancestors. It was a desperate act, a final hope, though she didn't believe it would work. She had covered it with soil and charm beads, and she left it behind, believing it was a grave. And now, her daughter was still breathing inside. "How do we get her out?" she asked. Ryan looked at the capsule closely. "We don't open it here. If we break the seal, the cold air might shock her system. We take her up to the ship." "But it's heavy," Kaylara said, "and deep inside the ground." "Then, I'll dig it out." Ryan stood and started clearing the snow and ice from the base of the pod. He used a small energy tool to cut away frozen roots and compacted earth. Kaylara helped, though her hands still trembled. The wind howled around them, stronger than before. A new storm was coming. "We have maybe 30 minutes before the pod gets buried again," Ryan said. "We need to move fast." Kaylara nodded and worked harder. She didn't care how cold her fingers were. She didn't care how much her knees hurt. All that mattered was the child sleeping inside the metal shell. Finally, after several minutes of digging and lifting, they freed the capsule. It was heavier than they expected, but Ryan was strong, and Kaylara used what strength she had left. They pulled it over the snow with a hover sled attachment from the drop pod. As they reached the shuttle, the storm grew louder. Snow whipped through the air in sharp waves. The sky darkened fast. Ryan activated the emergency lift on the pod. The hatch opened, and the sled slid in with the capsule locked securely. Kaylara climbed in last. Her eyes never left the pod. "Don't worry," Ryan said as the doors sealed. "She's safe now." The pod lifted off, engines humming through the blizzard. Kaylara sat beside the capsule the entire time, holding her daughter's tiny fingers through the cold glass. She whispered, softly, "Mama's here. I didn't leave you. I thought I lost you, but I'm here now." Her voice cracked and the tears fell freely. But these were not just tears of sadness. There was hope inside them. Back on the ship, the medical team rushed to receive the capsule. They had never seen this kind of alien preservation tech before, but with Ryan's help and Kaylara's knowledge, they figured out how to safely transfer the child to their med bay. "We'll warm her body slowly," the head medic explained. "We'll bring her temperature up by degrees. If we go too fast, her organs may fail." Kaylara nodded, even though every second felt like a lifetime. The capsule opened inside the sealed room. Machines beeped. Lights blinked. A soft mist rose as the cold air inside escaped. Tali lay there, motionless, her skin pale but not lifeless. The medics worked quietly, attaching gentle monitors and warming blankets. A soft rhythm appeared on the screen. A heartbeat, faint but steady. Kaylara stood behind the glass, her hands pressed to it, her eyes locked on her daughter. "She's going to be okay," Ryan said, standing beside her. "I don't know how to thank you," she replied softly. "You didn't have to go back. You didn't have to believe." "I've seen enough loss in this galaxy," he said. "Saving one life is worth the effort, especially a child's." Kaylara looked at him. For the first time, she smiled. Small, tired smile, but real. "You remind me of someone from our stories," she said. "A wanderer who comes from the stars to return what was lost." Ryan chuckled. "I'm just a soldier, one who got lucky today." "No," she said, shaking her head. "Not lucky, brave." They stood in silence, watching the heart monitor beat. It was slow, but growing stronger. Hours passed. Kaylara refused to rest. She sat by the glass, watching her daughter closely. Ryan brought her food and warm tea, but she barely touched it. Her focus was on Tali. The little girl's body was slowly warming. Color returned to her skin. Her fingers twitched. Her eyelids fluttered once, then settled again. The medics kept adjusting the machines. Every change brought a new breath of hope. Ryan stayed nearby, checking in every hour. He knew what it felt like to wait in silence, unsure of the future. He had waited for messages from home during long tours. He had waited for wounded friends to open their eyes again. Waiting was a soldier's second job. Finally, just as the artificial night cycle began, a soft alarm beeped. Kaylara jumped to her feet. Inside the sealed room, Tali's eyes fluttered open. Slowly, gently. She looked around. Her lips moved. The sound was too soft to hear, but Kaylara knew what she was saying. "Mama." The door slid open with a gentle hiss. The medics nodded, allowing Kaylara inside. She rushed to her daughter's side, falling to her knees beside the bed. "Tali, I'm here," she whispered. The little girl blinked, her fingers reaching up weakly. "Mama." "Cold." Kaylara wrapped her arms around her gently. "Not anymore, my star. You're safe now." Ryan watched from the doorway, his heart full. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just smiled and turned away, giving them their moment. Somewhere deep in space, far from war and politics, a mother and child were reunited. And one human soldier stood quietly in the hallway, knowing that, just this once, he had changed everything. Inside the medical bay, the room was calm but filled with quiet energy. Monitors beeped slowly. A warm yellow light filled the space, casting a soft glow over the bed where little Tali now lay, alive, breathing, and slowly recovering. Her small fingers were wrapped around her mother's hand. Kaylara sat close beside her, eyes red from tears but full of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Tali's voice was weak, like wind brushing over snow. "Where are we, Mama?" Kaylara smiled gently. "We are on a ship with kind people. They found me in the snowstorm, and they helped bring you back." Tali blinked slowly. "I had a dream about stars." Kaylara kissed her daughter's forehead. "Now you're among them." Behind the observation window, Ryan stood watching the two. He hadn't spoken yet. He didn't want to interrupt the moment, but when Tali turned her eyes toward him, she pointed with one small finger. "Who's that?" Kaylara turned. "That's the human who saved us. He brought me back from the storm. Then he brought you back from silence." Ryan smiled and tapped gently on the glass. Tali gave a tiny wave in return. "She's strong," Ryan said as he stepped into the room. "Just like her mother." Kaylara stood to greet him. She looked tired, but stronger than she had been days ago. "You did more than save us," she said. "You gave me something I thought was gone forever." Ryan lowered his eyes, then looked at Tali. "She's a fighter." The child nodded. "Mama says I'm her star." Ryan smiled. "That's a good name." Tali leaned back on the pillow, her energy still low. Kaylara tucked the blanket around her, then turned to Ryan again. "How long can we stay here?" Ryan shook his head. "As long as you need. The ship is scheduled to finish its patrol in 2 weeks. After that, we return to a central outpost. We can make arrangements there." Kaylara hesitated. "My village, it's gone. Everyone is either missing or passed on. I have no home now." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Then we'll help you find one." Over the next few days, Tali's condition improved. The human doctors were amazed by her alien physiology. Though weak, her body responded well to treatment. She ate soft food, played with glowing toys, and smiled more often. She even began drawing simple shapes on paper. One day, she showed Ryan a picture. "It's you," she said proudly. "And me and Mama. We're standing under stars." Ryan looked at the sketch. His figure was tall with a round helmet. Tali stood next to him with a bright smile, and Kaylara stood with her arms around them both. "It's perfect," Ryan said. Tali grinned. "You're a hero." Ryan laughed softly. "Not really, just someone who doesn't like leaving people behind." Kaylara heard that. Her eyes grew soft. "That's what makes you one." Late one night, Ryan sat in the ship's observation lounge. The stars outside looked peaceful, shining silently across endless space. He held the drawing in his hands, thinking of the journey so far. He didn't come to this system expecting to rescue anyone. In fact, he had prepared for the worst, but now things were different. He had saved a life. Maybe even 2. Kaylara stepped into the lounge quietly. She carried 2 cups of tea and handed one to Ryan. "Still awake?" she asked. "I was just thinking," he replied, "about how close I came to missing the signal. I almost didn't go back." "But you did." "I don't know why," he said. "Something told me to look again." Kaylara nodded. Maybe it was Tali. Maybe she called out without words. They sipped their tea in silence for a moment. "I don't know what your world is like," Ryan said, "but I know there's room on mine for people like you." Kaylara looked at him. "You mean Earth?" He nodded. "There are programs for refugees, places to stay, schools, healthcare. Tali could have a future there." Kaylara was silent. "And what about you?" Ryan blinked. "What about me? You talk like you're just passing through. But you've been here every day, every hour. You didn't just rescue us, you stayed." Ryan looked at her, a bit surprised. "I guess I didn't want to walk away." Kaylara smiled, a soft warmth in her expression. "Then don't." They sat together watching the stars. No more words were needed. A week later, Tali was strong enough to walk around the ship. The crew had grown fond of her. They gave her stickers, soft toys, and sweet treats from Earth. She made friends quickly. Kaylara, too, had changed. She walked taller, smiled more, and even helped in the medbay. Her knowledge of old alien tech impressed the engineers. One day, Tali came running up to Ryan holding a string in her hand. "This is for you," she said. It was a charm, handmade, simple, small colorful beads tied together, a replica of the one Kaylara had placed on the grave. "I made it with Mama," Tali said proudly, "so you'll always remember us." Ryan took it gently, his eyes soft. "Thank you. I'll keep it close." He tied it around his wrist. It looked small, but it felt like the most valuable thing he had ever received. As the ship approached the main outpost, Ryan stood with Kaylara and Tali at the viewing window. "There it is," he said. "Your new beginning." Tali clapped. "I want to see Earth one day." "You will," Kaylara said. She turned to Ryan, her expression quiet but strong. "We'll go wherever you think is best. You've guided us this far." Ryan looked at her, then at the child beside her. "Then let's make sure the next step is even better than the last." Together, they watched the stars fade as the ship entered the outpost's orbit, ready to begin a new chapter. The ship slowly descended toward the main human outpost, a large space station orbiting a quiet planet. Inside, the mood was calm and full of hope. For Kaylara and little Tali, this was a new beginning, something they had once thought impossible. As the ship docked, Ryan stood near the exit ramp with Kaylara and Tali by his side. The girl was holding tightly to his hand. Her eyes were wide with curiosity, and her hair bounced softly as she walked, full of life again. "Is this our new home?" Tali asked in a gentle voice. "Not yet," Ryan said with a smile. "But it's a place where we'll figure out the next step." Kaylara looked at the space station through the clear panels. Lights blinked gently across the structure. It wasn't loud or crowded. It looked peaceful, organized, and safe. She nodded. "It feels right." When the doors opened, a soft breeze from the station's air system greeted them. Officers and medical staff were already waiting. Ryan walked forward and spoke with the commander briefly. Then he returned to the mother and child. "They've already prepared a place for you two," he said. "A quiet room in the family section. You'll have everything you need." Kaylara looked down at Tali, then back at Ryan. "And what about you?" Ryan smiled, but there was something thoughtful in his eyes. "I have another assignment coming up soon, but before that I'll be staying here for a while just to make sure you're settled." Tali squeezed his hand. "Can we stay with you?" Ryan knelt beside her. "You and your mother are going to be just fine, and I'll be around." The girl nodded, though she looked a little sad. She had grown attached to him quickly. He was the first new person she had trusted after waking up. The next few days were calm. Kaylara and Tali were given a clean, cozy room with soft lights, warm blankets, and plenty of food. The station even had a small garden dome, where they could walk and feel something close to nature again. Kaylara spent her time helping technicians study the old stasis capsule. Her knowledge of her people's forgotten technology surprised everyone. The engineers welcomed her as both a survivor and a teacher. Tali, on the other hand, spent her time drawing more pictures. Many of them showed stars, ships, and three figures standing side by side, always the same three: herself, her mother, and Ryan. One morning, Kaylara found her sitting in the common room, coloring quietly. "What are you drawing today, my star?" she asked. Tali looked up and smiled. "A house, one with a tree and flowers, and Ryan lives next door." Kaylara knelt beside her. "You like him a lot, don't you?" The girl nodded. "He makes me feel safe, like Papa used to before he was gone." Kaylara paused, her hand softly brushing Tali's hair. "He feels the same about you, I think." Later that day, Ryan came to visit. He brought a small bag with two soft dolls inside. One that looked like a human in uniform and one that looked like a little alien girl with long silver hair. "For you," he said, handing them to Tali. She beamed and hugged both toys tightly. "Now I can sleep. With friends beside me." Kalara gave him a thankful smile. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Ryan replied. Then he looked down, clearing his throat. "I've been asked to join a mission in 3 days. It's in another system, just routine supply work. But I'll be gone for a while." Kalara's smile faded slightly. "Oh, I didn't want to leave without saying goodbye." Tali looked up. "You're going far?" "Not too far," he said. "And I'll come back if you need me." The child held up the human toy. "Then I'll keep this safe, so you're always with me." Ryan touched her shoulder gently. "That means a lot." Kalara walked him out into the hallway, away from Tali. "You've changed our lives," she said. "I hope you know that." Ryan nodded. "You changed mine too." There was a quiet moment between them. Not awkward, just full of meaning. "If things were different," he said softly, "I'd stay longer." Kalara looked into his eyes. "Then promise me something." "Anything. Don't disappear," she said. "We've lost too many people already." Ryan gave a small nod. "I won't." They didn't hug. They didn't need to. The connection between them had already been built, stronger than words, stronger than distance. 3 days later, Ryan left the station. His ship disappeared into the stars, carrying him to another part of the galaxy. But before leaving, he left something behind, a letter for Kalara and Tali. It said, "You were my mission, but you became my reason. If you ever need me, you only have to send one signal, and I'll come back no matter how far I am." Ryan Kalara read it silently, then handed it to Tali. The little girl smiled. "He's our star too." Kalara hugged her close. "Yes, he is." Months passed. Kalara began working officially with the research division at the outpost. She helped design better survival tech for frontier colonies using knowledge from her people's ancient devices. Tali started school with other children from many species. She made friends, learned new languages, and even began writing stories. Every night before bed, she placed the charm, the one Ryan gave her, on her bedside table. And every morning, she checked the station window, looking at the stars. One day, as she stood watching the sky, Kalara came and joined her. "Do you miss him?" she asked. Tali nodded. "But I know he'll come back." Kalara smiled. "How do you know?" "Because he said so. And humans always keep promises." Together, mother and daughter watched the stars, and somewhere out there, across the endless sky, a soldier carried their memory with him, waiting for the day he'd return to the people he once saved from the snow, and gave back something stronger than survival. He gave them hope.